All right. Good sunny morning, everybody. It is sunny here in rural Minnesota. I hope the sun is shining at least within you. I know, kind of cheesy, but hey, it's true. So let's get started. First of all, I just want to give you a little astrological weather heads up. Today is not only a full moon, but it is a big day overall, super moon, just a number of things going on. So what I have to share with you is a big thing, but I'm going to encourage you actually to journal about it rather than just letting out whatever comes to mind and what comes from this. It will be better for you and it will be better for your significant other that you don't just let it out. This is something to process, to self-reflect on. And really a lot of what I have to say is more for self-reflection first and then talking about later. Also, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're almost to 100. Let's get over 100 in the next day or so. That's my goal. And I could use your help. So it's just a few more, just a few likes, subscribes, makes all the difference. Also, whether you're a man or a woman and you appreciate this advice, send it to a friend if you just recently talked about this discussion, or a man and you're like, yeah, I wish all women knew this. That like and subscribe helps in both cases. So thank you very much. All right. My topic for today is I was constantly disappointed. And when I mean constantly, I mean, yeah, I was really like constantly disappointed. And the thing is, if you were to kind of equate it to something in life, it was like in our relationship, we had a dull headache. Now, I'm going to speak for myself because I can't entirely speak for my husband, even though we've talked about this years later. I'm going to speak for myself in this case. And I'll say for me, it felt like our relationship had a dull headache for a good year. And when I say constantly disappointed, looking back, which is all of what is, or most of what it is, Wifey School and the Wifey Wake Up podcast, by the way, are the things that I've learned in the 20 plus years of our marriage. And this was a really big aha. And so when I say I was constantly disappointed, looking back, what I realized was I was in charge of that. I was in charge of setting the standards and setting the desires, the goals that would then be the standards for me being disappointed or not, or being satisfied. So let's just start with that in mind. So the thing is that at this point in our marriage, for me, it was like a dull headache. When you have a dull headache, you can't really do much. You can kind of function and get along, but it's not a state that you want to be in day out. You certainly don't want to discuss anything pertinent, important. You don't want any loud noises. You don't want any extremes, right? And it's even hard to sleep when you have a dull headache. So that's kind of what it was like. We weren't talking about anything challenging, that is, things that we really need to talk about. And from my perspective, life was so stressful in business that even to talk about anything, we couldn't talk about our dreams, our future, our goals. Particularly, they were particularly stressful for my husband. And so life felt really stagnant. We did what he wanted, and we didn't, in my mind, we didn't really talk about anything meaningful because we couldn't talk about anything beyond what's for dinner or what are we going to do this weekend. And, when you're in one of these states, and I think any marriage that lasts long enough will go through this, if it's not the thing that actually ends you, is part of ending you, life or you will do something to break this state, because it's not a state that you can continue to live in. And it's not productive. It's not healthy. It's not a condition that you can thrive. Just like that dull headache, you can get along. You can go to the grocery store. You can cook dinner. But as far as like living and thriving, you can't, right? And so that's why it's so similar. And then for us, there was a breaking point. And a lot of times, and especially since we've become our own breaking points, where we've said, we've got to fix this. But this is where life it ended up building up so much that we had a massive argument, and that became the breaking point for us. Now, when I say that, uh, I was constantly disappointed, I strive to keep these podcasts short, so this may not convey the depth, the intensity that I was feeling. But what it came down to is at that time in my life in particular, I'd finally come to terms with, or it finally become a reality, that my family of origin was no longer going to be in my life. And it was a strange combination of relief and really deep sadness and grieving. And it was a relief because I was constantly being put in the position to be the one to fix the problems. And hint, you can't fix another person. And I did whatever I could to fix myself in that situation. But there are times where you just can't fix yourself enough to make another person be the person they need to be in the situation. You can't fix someone else. So it was a relief that I was no longer being pushed into that position. And also very, very sad, realizing and not even knowing what would be the reality of no longer having my family of origin in my life as I knew it in particular, and who would go along with them. When there's a family breakup, especially when there's drama and trauma, I didn't know who was going to be included in that. So I was also coming to terms with, I may not have anyone from my family of origin to continue forward with in my life. Fortunately, I do have a couple of people now who I very much cherish, but that was the reality of the time. And at that same time, I wanted to expand my family with John, and that was not happening. And there was simultaneously nothing I could do about it. And I felt stagnant. I felt in a corner, like I couldn't do anything. And what I was doing is, it's very hard in life anyways when you can't do something about an issue, especially when you're the type of person that's like, I want to do something, I want to fix this. And seems like every significant situation in particular in my life, I could not move forward in. And along with that, our business was really stressful for my husband. He wasn't talking about that. I don't know if that would have helped really, but I also wasn't receptive, and not receptive in the sense of, well, like just really being receptive and compassionate about things. And I was turning things around on him and expecting him to change things around in our life. And, I'm trying to keep this short. There's so many directions we can go in, but I'm just going to keep it at that for today. So those were my expectations. I had expectations that we would live a certain way, and then just the stress of not seeing my future essentially come to fruition the way that I wanted to, was really heartbreaking and disappointing. And what I realized years down the road is, for one, we needed to talk. We needed to talk at the times that were most difficult. And I know it seems like a general kind of prescription, but it's like for the headache, right? Just lie down and relax. But or drink some water, right? But it's so true. We mutually said after the fact that we were protecting each other, but we were also protecting ourselves. We were protecting each other because we knew that what we were going to bring up to each other would have been the same stuff we'd been saying over and over that didn't get through in the first place. So what good was it going to do again? You're protecting the other person because you're not badgering them, right? But what we really needed to do, and I'll speak for myself, is really listen. Instead of being so focused on what I wanted, and they were very large things in life. They were, and quote, normal things, right? I was in such a grieving state that it was hard to get out of that, but it was still, in hindsight, something I wish I would have been able to do. And that is listen to where he was at as well, that he was doing his best to provide, to do those things in life that we and I wanted. And if I had been able to get outside of myself, which when you're grieving, it is really difficult to get outside of yourself. You're just constantly pulled in. But if I had been able to, I think it would have been helpful for me to have more compassion for him and what he was going through, be there for him, and and uh, and yeah, just those things. When you're in life together, when you're in a true partnership, right? You're working together. Sometimes being able to put your own thoughts and needs and desires aside can really help the other person, and then therefore both of you. And then, and probably the biggest aha that came out of this is that I was putting God-sized expectations on my husband. And these are things that I should have been conversing with God about rather than expecting from him. I could talk with him about these things, but should have been things that I took to God, because they were much bigger issues than any human being could even handle, that could even, do anything about. The most that he could do in those situations, which he did, was be there to listen, to comfort, to understand. Thankfully, I think for the most part, he knew that I was going through a very difficult time, particularly with my family of origin, and that affected other things. And the fact of the matter is that if you're together in a relationship long enough, you're going to have these points where it seems like everything is coming in and pressing on you. And I think now what I do is I will converse with God about it. I will pray about it and really strive to get outside of myself and just what I want, what I desire, what I think should happen, and particularly listen to my husband and have compassion for him too and what he's going through in life, because we're in this together. It's not just what I'm experiencing and what's going on in my life. And I think along with that is realizing that if I'm disappointed, I need to reassess what my desires, my goals, my expectations are, and are they reasonable? And that's what, again, led me back to what I was expecting from my husband were really God-sized requests, God-sized expectations. And no wonder I was disappointed that constantly, right? So let me know how that sinks in with you. These were really big ahas that I managed to share in less than 15 minutes. And it's also encouragement, that when you are in a relationship, you're married in particular, when you've been married long enough, you are going to go through the tough times, and that you can get through them, and it's worth it. It is so worth it. You come out stronger and better on the other side when you actually get through it. And that's me wishing you the best, giving you this huge token. I hope you really take it to heart, journal about it, talk about it, and have a wonderful day, everybody. Take care.